Hello everyone. This is your friend from Naruto Audio Fanfics, and we are back once again with a brand new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto Uzumaki had both parents alive, love, power and a harem beyond Konoha, Naruto times Hinata times Sakura times Ino times Tenten times Tamari times Anko times Kurenai times Tsunade times Shizune, Naruharem Part 1. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the like button, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing Naruto fanfics like this. So without wasting any more time, let's start today's fanfic. Three young shinobi were in deep trouble as they were running out of the collapsing cavern. The most serious one with silver hair and an injury to his right eye was about to be crushed underneath a boulder that was impossible for him to see. The goofy one with black spiky hair saw this and shoved his doomed teammate out of the way, yelling, "Kakashi, watch out." The young Cyclops didn't understand until he was sent backwards. The one called Kakashi was sure that he only had one chance of saving his friend. He quickly pulled out a kunai and an explosive tag. As he threw it, he yelled to the young, brunette, female ninja, "Rin, you have to get out of here, it's too dangerous." When Kakashi neither heard nor saw an explosion, his heart sank as he thought, "Damn it. It must have been a defective tag. Obito is surely going to die now." Minato-sensei. He heard the young kunoichi named Rin say in shock. The young Cyclops was turning around to see if Rin was okay. The thing he saw was something that surprised him though. There was a young adult standing by Obito with wild spiky golden hair and sapphire blue eyes. The boulder was gone now and Kakashi was confused. They knew they had to get out. After they all left, the three young shinobi had some questions. He started asking his golden-haired sensei. "How did you know we were in trouble? How did you get there so fast?" "Well, are you going to give me some answers, Minato-sensei?" Kakashi asked. The blonde ninja answered quite calmly, "The kunai that you threw at the oversized rock had a special seal on it to let me know when it is thrown. It also pinpoints the place I have to go to in order to do my Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God technique. The technique that won the third great ninja war." With a smug smirk at the last part, Kakashi went off somewhere mumbling something along the lines of "bastard." Obito followed him after snickering a little, yelling, "Yo, One Eye, I need to talk to you." It was the One Eye comment that got his attention. He turned around and gave him a death glare and said, "Don't you call me." The young one with goggles said in a very sarcastic way, "I guess you don't want an eye with the most powerful Keki Genki in Konoha." Kakashi, looking a lot less annoyed, replied, "What do you mean?" Well, looks like I got you interested. My cousin is in a coma and I could get my clan to let you have it. It has already accessed the Sharingan, so you'll have its abilities. Rin has even offered to do the surgery. It's my gift to you for reaching Jonin." Kakashi hesitated and then answered, "If you can make it happen, I'll do it." 2 years later, there was a horrible roar coming from the outskirts of the city. Minato was paying his respects to all the fine shinobi dying for the village. "Minato-sensei, you can't go through with this. You have a soon-to-be wife and a son that will be born in hours," yelled the Uchiha. Kakashi, without his usual bored look, said, "Hokage-sama, I agree with Obito." Obito had a smug look on his face. Then Kakashi added, "No matter how much I hate it and always will." The smug look turned annoyed. Rin added, "Hokage-sama, we still need you in the village here and now, your son needs you now." Minato replied, "I know, but I have a duty to this village and I'm going to serve it. I'm off to say goodbye to my would-be wife and my almost. This might not be the best time to say this, but don't call me Hokage-sama or Minato-sama. Personally, I would prefer it if you would call me Minato-kun." He then disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sarutobi came out of where he was hiding smoking a pipe. He said, after blowing a smoke ring, "So, everybody knows the plan, right?" Everybody started looking at Obito. "Why is everybody looking at me? I know the plan. I came up with the plan," he screamed. At hospital, the Yondaime flashed into the room his lover was in. "Kushina, I wanted to tell you I might not make it back. I know that you already know that I'm putting him in Naruto. You're being supportive about it too. Though it has to be our son that has this demon. He is the only one who can control it and," said Minato. The beautiful redhead interrupted, "I know that it has to be him. In fact, I'm kind of glad it is him. He'll be the hero of this village. Even though not everybody will think this way. After you get back we can get married, but you'll have to take my clan name of Uzumaki. He replied, yeah, because you're from a very important clan. Yeah, we'll get married if I. No. Not if you come back. When you come back, she interrupted. But, started the golden-haired ninja. She said, no buts, you're coming back. That is not a request, it is an order. I won't be able to live through this if you aren't here, so you have to come back for our child's sake. Okay dear, was his reply. He then dashed off with a tear in his eye. At the Kyuubi attack, the Yondaime was riding Gamabunta trying to fight off the demon, knowing that he would have to use that. His 3 students appeared ready to battle. Along with them was the former Hokage, Sarutobi. The monkey-like man said, if you die here we want to be here with you in your final hour, fighting this demon alongside you. He said, well, you're kind of late for my final hours. From the looks of things it's more like my final minutes. I just started the Shiki Fujin, dead demon consuming seal. I have done all the preparations, now the only thing that is left is the jutsu itself. Good. Now Enma, said Sarutobi. Kakashi said, bull, go. Rin said, Torimaru now. Obito yelled, Nyanchin, time to do the plan. Then Sarutobi started to use the jutsu, and before Minato could stop him a human-sized monkey blocked him. Then a bulldog, a cat, and a hawk started helping the monkey. What are you guys doing? Screamed a confused Minato. Kakashi answered, stopping you from letting yourself die. His 3 students summoning tackled, giving Enma a chance to get a hold of Minato and hold him long enough for Sarutobi to seal away the demon in. S body fell after the jutsu was complete, and Enma was sent back to the summoning world, leaving behind a contract and a note telling them to keep the contract for a while. They carried off Sarutobi's and the others' bodies to celebrate the defeat of the fox, the marriage of the Hokage and a woman from the former village of Whirlpool, and mourn the loss of all the fine men and women that lost their lives today. At the end of it all, the Yondaime raised up Naruto and said, behold your savior, the container for the Kyuubi. Many villagers were shocked and angry, saying things like, that child is bearing an evil demon, and, let's kill it now. Yeah, many villagers said, trying to go in and kill him. The Yondaime teleported to the closest person holding a kunai to his neck, saying loud enough so everyone could hear, he is also my son and I won't let anyone hurt him. If you hurt him I shall do it unto tenfold. Surprisingly, an ally came from an eunuch's pexting place. Listen to the Yondaime that is the hero of this village. Until he is able to defend himself, my eyes and fists shall be his shield. Any harm to him will be very unpleased to the man whom did it, said the Yondaime's friend Hiashi Hyuga. Minato said, well, color me impressed. I never expected you of all people to accept Naruto. Hiashi had a weird look on his face and said, you're naming your son after those steamed fish cakes in ramen. He is going to love that food too much. The Yondaime smirked and said, well, coming from a Hyuga, the most pale clan in Konoha, who named his daughter Faces the Sun. Besides, my sensei came up with the name for one of his books. Hiashi looked disgusted. You named you son based off a character in a smutty book. Minato laughed and said, no, this book was actually serious. It was his first book. Here, borrow my copy of it. You might actually like it. He handed his ally a book and walked home with his newborn in his arms. 6 years after the Kyuubi attack. Naruto-kun, it's time to wake up. Don't think just because it's your birthday means you can sleep in, said the beautiful redhead to her son. A younger-looking version of Minato got out of bed, took a long yawn and took off his sleeping cap and went to go take a shower. After his warm shower he got into a white t-shirt and some jean pants. He hasn't started ninja training yet. Naruto walked down the stairs and saw his mom and dad smiling at him. Minato said, happy birthday, little guy. Naruto was confused by the weird smile on his dad's face and he asked, To-san, what's with that funny-looking smile on your face? Minato responded, well, I don't know, maybe because it's your birthday, or because the start of next year you're starting in the Ninja Academy, or maybe because as of today I'll be starting your training with me. Naruto got out of his tired form and started yelling in pure excitement, what? No way, this is so awesome. The Yondaime, who was used to it by now, said in return, yeah, I know. Although, you'll need some ninja gear and some new cloths for it. Well, I goose, that is what your birthday is for. Naruto screamed, ninja gear, so cool. You guys are the best parents ever. Kushina, who was not, rubbed her ears, said, Well, Naruto-kun, it's time to open your presents. Naruto ran into the room that had his presents in it. Before Naruto could start ripping open his presents, his dad appeared in the room to stop him and make him wait a little while longer. When Kushina walked into the room, she said with a yawn, "We had this plan so you would open them in order. You'll start with this one." She picked up a box and gave it to Naruto. When Naruto felt it in his hands, he could tell that whatever it was in a box. His father asked him, "So what do you think it is?" Naruto thought for a couple of seconds and answered, "My ninja cloths, because of the general size. The fact that the box it is in is somewhat flimsy, and when I slightly tip it to one side it doesn't make much noise." Minato smirked, thinking, his skills being able to determine that are pretty good, although that was the simplest of all of them. Let's see how high his analyzing abilities are. When Naruto opened it, he saw his ninja clothes. He smli led and went to go put them on. When he came out, he was wearing a long-sleeve black shirt with orange flames at the base and the sleeves and red swirls on his shoulders and black pants. "How do I look?" said the young kid with the new look. Kushina smiled and said, "You look good, Naruto-kun." He smiled and his dad gave him another present. Naruto said, "I think this is a stack of explosive notes, because when you feel these sides you feel many different flimsy sheets." He opened it and there was a big stack of explosive notes. This went on for a while. Naruto goosed quite a few right and many wrong. When it was all done except one, Naruto looked very different from when he started. He had his new cloths on, a kunai pouch attached to his leg, another pouch on the back of his belt, 2 scrolls hanging of his belt, chakra weights on his wrists and ankles, a necklace, ninja shoes, and some medial equipment. He got some non-ninja gifts too, such as a new shogi board, ramen coupons, and a rubber ball. Before Naruto could open his final present, his parents had tell him something to tell him. Minato said, "We have something to tell you, Naruto-kun. This is some of the best ninja gear in here. We want you to have it so you can be safer. There is one other ninja gift we gave you when you were born. It is the..." Naruto finished. Kyuubi. I know, I have met him in my dreams. I was scared at first. I thought I was a monster. I almost feel like a hero. That might sound very weird, but I was the one to save this village. The older blonde-haired ninja smirked and thought, "Wow, he really is my son. I'm proud of you, Naruto. You are the hero of the village and everyone should think the same way." When he opened it, there was a big wooden box with the swirl on it. He undid the latches and opened the box. There was a orange mask with the Konoha symbol on it, 2 gloves with the swirl that he is so fond of, and 3 cases that had 5 pills in them. One case had 5 emerald-looking pills in it. The second was 5 flaming red pills in it. The last had 5 yellow pills in it. Naruto was confused by the gifts and he looked at his parents. Kushina said, "I'll explain it, Minato-kun. Naruto-kun, those are great things. Those gloves will help you in training for a certain jutsu when you're older. The green pills are able to heal up nearly any wound. The red one will increase your strength and stamina for long periods of time. The yellow will restore nearly all your chakra. The mask is to help with chakra control." Naruto was amazed at what his parents just gave him. Minato broke the silence and said, "Okay, Naruto-kun, put on the mask and the gloves and put away your pills and come meet me outside for the start of your ninja training." After Naruto was ready, he went back and found his dad. "Naruto-kun, I'm going to teach you a bit about taijutsu, the art of physical combat." He started showing Naruto punches, kicks, jumps, and weapon throwing. He said, "As doing some jumps, the key is to let it flow. Well, at least for my style of Senkoken, flash fist." Naruto started to try to do it. He wasn't good at all, but he had a lot of potential. "Don't forget to take another shower, Naruto. We're going to go to Ichiraku Ramen with Hiyashi, his family, Kakashi, Rin, and Obito," said Kushina. After Naruto took his shower, they left. They arrived at the ramen bar and spotted 3 ninja. "Hey Kakashi-kun, Hiyashi-san, Hinata-chan," said Naruto. Hiyashi had a smile and said, "Hello, Naruto-kun. Only you would choose a place you go every day for your birthday dinner." Hinata-chan, Hanabi-chan, say hello to Naruto-kun. Hinata looked at Naruto and blushed as she said, Hello, Naruto-kun. Happy birthday." Hanabi did the same thing. "Hello, Naruto-kun," said Kakashi while smiling under his mask. Man, why does he only say hi to you three? Asked Obito. Because he knows that Hiashi and myself are better ninja than you and Hinata is his friend. I mean really though, I was a Jonin when I was 12 and you're a Chunin at 20, said Kakashi in a joking way. You know I'm surprised neither of you are late getting here, said Kushina. I said the same thing, said Rin. Obito laughed and said, and what miss my favorite little shinobi's birthday? He's not a shinobi yet, but he will be, said his father. They all had a nice dinner and went home, Naruto with a couple of more bucks than when he got there. Months later, Naruto was one night worth of sleep away from his first day of school. He was very nervous about if the other kids will like him or not. He knew he would probably do pretty good in the actual school part. He already knew a lot of his dad's fighting style, a few ninjutsu attacks, and a couple of genjutsu. He uses all of his chakra weights at 15 pounds. He was in the middle of thoughts as he slowly drifted into sleep. He woke up at around 6 like he did every morning since he started training with his dad. Went into the fridge and got a bottle of water. He left a note for his mom saying that he was going to go for a run around the town and he'd be at the school early. He was running around the village when he saw someone kicking at a wood stump. He walked up to him and got a good look at him and saw that he had bowl-cut hair and thick eyebrows. He walked up to this guy and said, "Hi, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I didn't think anyone else would be exercising at this time." The boy replied, "Greetings Naruto Uzumaki. I am Rock Lee. I had the same thoughts. Although I always train at this time. Yasodai, it's just normally at my house. So, are you going to the academy?" "Yes, this is my second year there. It is hard for me because I am not able to do ninjutsu or genjutsu and my taijutsu is below average. Which is why I'm working on it," replied Rock Lee in a sad tone. Naruto responded, "You don't need ninjutsu or genjutsu. I can see you're strong. Work off of that. I know that you'll be a great ninja. Just look at your determination. You're so determined to be a great ninja you're willing to come out here this early to work on your taijutsu." Rock Lee seemed to brighten up and say, "Uzumaki Naruto, you are right, I will be a splendid ninja. I swear upon it with my very being." Naruto said, "Well, I want to jog for a while before my first day in the ninja academy. See you." "Oh, it is your first day in the academy, good luck and goodbye Naruto-kun," said Rock Lee. Naruto jogged for about an hour 30 minutes before getting to the academy 30 minutes early. For 15 minutes he started doing push-ups until other kids started to show up. There was one happy-looking kid with raven hair, black eyes, and the Uchiha mark on his back. Yes, it is Sasuke, but before Itachi killed off his clan. One after another they started coming. Many girls were around the Uchiha kid and Naruto at the same time. Most noticeably a girl with pink hair and a red dress on who only stayed by the Uchiha boy, a girl with red hair and a red dress with the kanji for heat on it, and a girl with blonde hair tied up in a ponytail, a purple shirt and purple skirt on with bandages covering up her stomach and thighs. Hinata tended to stay really close to Naruto who didn't think much of it. Then two guys came together. One had a lazy posture and black pineapple hair. The other was kind of fat and brow hair. The next guy that came had a thick sweatshirt, a little puppy and face paint on. A guy with dark glasses and a trench coat that covers half of his face came after. The one after was a calm and collective looking guy with a cat on his shoulder and the kanji for cat on his shirt. The last kid that came was a kid with brown hair and earthen toned cloths on with the kanji for plant on it. Then a man with a green jacket and a scar across his nose appeared in a puff of smoke. He said, "Okay class, settle down, I'm your teacher Iruka Yumino. Find a seat now." After everybody got into their seats Iruka started attendance. "Shino Aburame. Here," said the boy with the dark sunglasses in an emotionless way. "Choji Akamichi. Munch, munch. Here, munch," said the somewhat fat one. "Chinatsuhime Fujiyatsusa. Here," said the red head that was hanging around the Uchiha. "Sakura Haruno. Here," said the pink-haired one that is still eyeing the Uchiha. "Hyuga Hinata. P. Present," said the Hyuga heiress. "Kiba Inuzuka. Yeah, I'm here," said the one with the dog. "Takehiko Kubuken. I'm here," said the eager guy in the earthen-toned cloths. "Shikamaru Nara. How troublesome. I'm here," said the lazy guy sitting next to Choji and Naruto. "Nekoyoshi Nayaki. I'm here," said the guy with the cat calmly. Sasuke Uchiha. Here, said the Uchiha boy. Naruto Uzumaki. I'm here, said Naruto. Ino Yamanaka. Here, said the girl in purple as she couldn't decide who was better, Naruto or Sasuke. Okay, then everybody is here, then let's get started. We'll start with some chakra information. Does anyone know what chakra is? Sakura's hand bolted up. Iruka saw this and said, okay, Sakura, what is your answer? Sakura said, chakra is the energy that keeps us alive and lets us use ninjutsu and genjutsu. Iruka smiled and said, good answer. Now does anyone in here happen to know how to channel chakra? Nobody raised their hand. Guess I'll do it, said Naruto. Great. It would be even better if you showed us a jutsu, if you know any, said Iruka. Oh, I know the perfect one, said Naruto. He did the appropriate hand seals and said, Fueton, Kazekite no Jutsu, wind style, wind cutter jutsu. He spun around with his arm straight in front of him, and when he got the cutting position he went faster, releasing a blade of visible wind that disappeared when it made contact with the window. Ha ha ha, your jutsu is terrible, laughed Kiba. Naruto smirked and said, take another look in a couple of seconds. Kiba looked over again and saw the entire window shatter. What the heck was that? Screamed Kiba. Shino replied in his emotionless tone, it's called a delayed effect jutsu. It doesn't take effect right away. The attack itself is delayed until after it has hit. Attacks like that can be quite useful strategically. Iruka was somewhat shocked from the knowledge of his students. Naruto, you're nothing like the creature that dwells inside of you, thought Iruka as he watched his nice, cheery student. Okay Naruto, go back to your desk now, said Iruka. When Naruto got back to his desk he remembered that he forgot to introduce himself to the people around him. Hi, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, said the blonde boy. What about you two? Naruto said, pointing at Shikamaru and Choji. Munch, I'm Choji Akamichi. This is my good friend Shikamaru Nara, said Choji while pointing Shikamaru. The guy in front of him turned around and said, Takehiko Kubuken, nice to meet you Naruto Uzumaki. Then from directly behind him someone said emotionlessly, it's nice to meet you Naruto Uzumaki. My name is Shino Aburame. Naruto was shocked by this and turned around and said, you scared me there Shino-kun. I was surprised to say the least. Recess came rather quickly and Naruto decided to stay inside with Sasuke, Shikamaru, Choji, Ino, Shino, and Hinata. Naruto pulled out his shogi board and said, does anyone want to play? Shikamaru replied, yeah, I'll play. I like shogi. They started playing. In the match they found the other was just as good. They played until it ended in a tie. You're good, said Naruto. Same to you, said Shikamaru. Then they started talking about several things. 2 weeks later, Naruto was progressing through his ninja classes and making friends as he went along. He became acquaintances with Kiba and Sasuke, good friends with Ino, Shino, Takehiko, and Rock Lee, and extremely close friends with Shikamaru, Hinata, and Choji. He was enjoying the academy life so far. Today is a sparring day, began Iruka. I will be assigning you into groups of 3 at the training grounds. Try not to hurt your opponent too badly. They all went down to the training ground with Iruka. When they got to the first 4 training grounds, Iruka stopped them and said, okay, time for the sparring teams. The first training ground is Shikamaru, Sasuke, and Chinatsuhime. On the second is Naruto, Sakura, and Takehiko. The third is Hinata, Choji, and Nekoyoshi. On the last one is Ino, Shino, and Kiba. They separated into their groups and started sparring. He told Takehiko could go first with Sakura if he wanted. He nodded his head. As Takehiko was fighting Sakura, he noticed that he didn't use a single jutsu and that Sakura was using a whole bunch of flashy genjutsus to impress Sasuke. In the end, Takehiko won without a single scratch on his body. Then Naruto went up to fight Takehiko. Naruto said, how about we only use taijutsu in this fight? You read my mind, he responded. They both assumed their positions. Naruto let Takehiko get close to him and deflected the roundhouse kick coming his way. He followed up by trying to thrust his palm at him. Takehiko grabbed the wrist of his foe and threw him. Naruto merely flipped and landed on the side of the tree and walked down. Naruto ran at his foe and threw a punch near his face. Takehiko just ducked, but as soon as he did that, Naruto smiled and did a powerful leg sweep, positioned himself under his strong foe and threw him upward so perfectly a master would be green with envy. Naruto offered his hand to Takehiko, who smiled before taking it. Naruto grimaced and thought, well, now I have the fangirl to teach a lesson too. Sakura came up, not taking this seriously, but instead looking at Sasuke. As she was swooning over Sasuke, Naruto used another leg sweep and sent her flying towards the trees. It wasn't anything serious, but it still got the pink-haired Kunoichi pissed. Hey, I wasn't ready, she huffed as she got back up. Sorry, but there is no not ready in the world of a ninja, he said to her. Naruto Uzumaki, you just made an enemy you do not want to have, she said. Naruto was calm and unfazed by her. They started their spar and she took it more seriously than before. She tried several genjutsu, but Naruto easily got out of them. She got madder and madder as the fight went on and she decided to use one of her best genjutsu. She did the appropriate hand seals and said in a light whisper, Ninpu, Hekikaku no Jutsu, ninja arts, false victory jutsu. Naruto entered a daze in which she saw him smirking. She laughed and held a kunai up to his neck. She continued to smile as she said, ha ha ha. That was almost too easy. The winner is me, Naruto interrupted. Then Sakura's world came crashing around her, literally. She re-entered the real world with Naruto holding a kunai to her neck. I'm surprised. Genjutsu is supposed to be your best subject, but you are horrible at detecting it. I merely used your own genjutsu against you. It's called ninpu. Yukuden no jutsu, ninja arts, reversal jutsu. She tried to hit him, but Naruto used an instant knockout strike. Takehiko was wondering if that was a little much and Naruto told him it was nothing to worry about. All that will happen is that she'll have a headache when she wakes up. An hour later, Sakura woke up and was extremely mad. There were veins popping out of her forehead and she was getting red with anger. Iruka stepped back a couple of feet as she screamed, Naruto. On Naruto's way home, Naruto was walking down the street as he felt an intense killing intent aimed at him. Crap, Sakura must have woken up, thought a very scared Naruto. He started running to his safe haven, Ichiraku. He drooled as he walked into the place that served the best ramen ever. What should I get? Maybe 7 bowls of beef. No, 8 bowls of miso, thought the hungry boy, forgetting about Sakura. He left the location with a smile on his face. It was one of the few times that he ever thanked the Kyuubi for giving him such a high metabolism. He didn't have to get back home soon, so he decided to go to the park for a while. He started heading to a tree by the river, but noticed 2 people were there. He sighed and decided to go to some other place to hang out. One of the 2 saw him and started to talk to the other one, whom nodded and called over to Naruto. Hey Naruto-kun, do you want to hang out with me and my brother? Naruto looked over and realized it was Sasuke. He shrugged then nodded as he walked over there. He looked at the older one and figured he was about 11. He then said, hello, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. Pleased to meet you, Uchiha Itachi, the preteen answered. Naruto's mouth hung low. He has heard of the legendary kid. The ninja was a genius among geniuses. Naruto heard that they expected Itachi to make Anbu captain by age 13. It is a pleasure to meet you Itachi-sama, was Naruto's shaky reply. Itachi smiled and patted him on the head. Sasuke told me that you were a good student, but do you know how to fight for real? Itachi asked. Naruto was able to say, I know how to fight to an extent, but I couldn't beat anybody over Genin, if that. He saw Itachi mutter something in the young Uchiha's ear. Sasuke looked at his brother who just nodded. Sasuke did a jump kick towards Naruto who easily dodged it. Naruto was confused, but already in a defensive stance. Sasuke spun around and tried to hit Naruto with a punch, but the blonde caught the punch and sent the black-eyed kid off balance. He pushed Sasuke on the ground and asked, what was that for? I wanted to gauge your strength. It would seem that it was in vain, seeing how as you beat my brother without trying. It would seem that you are humble, or a master at hiding information. I think it is the later because you can't hide anything from these eyes, said Itachi who had already activated his Sharingan. Naruto was frightened. Someone was bound to figure out that he was sandbagging, but he hoped it would be after he became a genin. The blue-eyed boy said, in an unbelievable way, ha ha ha, I don't know what you're talking about. I just got lucky with that hit and I'm not good. In fact, I was boasting saying I could take down a genin. Ha! That would be the day when an academy student could beat a genin. Itachi looked at him intensely before deactivating his Sharingan, close his eyes and smile. Naruto eased up at this and decided that he would need to start holding back more if he was going to pull off his sandbagging. Naruto thought, that's it, I need to do as badly as possible, but not be dead last. Itachi was thinking, this is defiantly Minato's kid. Holding back so much. Not wanting anyone to know how strong he is. Maybe I should have tried that. Oh well, with Naruto around, the events to come will be interesting. I enjoy a good challenge. Naruto bolted up from bed in the middle of the night soaked with sweat. His breath was heavy, but slowly started to become more relaxed. He didn't have a dream with the Kyuubi, no, he has gotten over seeing the beast. This dream was on that horrid day 6 years ago. Flashback. Itachi was standing over Sasuke with a twisted smile across his face and his clan's blood on his hands. Those eyes. Naruto would never forget those eyes. The eyes he had gotten from nefarious deeds. They resembled a shuriken slightly. He patted Sasuke on the head and said, yes, use your hate. Hate me. It is your only hope to ever defeating me. Right now you're weak, but your hate is strong. Use it. With this, Naruto attacked from his hiding place and screamed, Itachi. What the heck are you talking about? True strength comes from protecting the people you care about. Naruto punched Itachi, who did nothing. The punch connected, but even after that Itachi didn't budge, there wasn't even a mark. Itachi slashed at Naruto's forehead just deeply enough to the point that he would scar and knock the wind out of him. Naruto remembers the Mangekyo Sharingan looking at him, and then it just blocks out the memory after that. Flashback end. Naruto felt like he was going to be sick. This was one of the few times that he ever felt this way. It only affected him for when he slept, sometimes. He couldn't imagine what Sasuke was going through. He became such a prick after that, but for some reason that made girls swoon over him more, except Ino, who was turned off by this, go figure. Luckily Obito was away on a mission during the time, so he was able to become legal guardian of his nephew. Naruto decided to think about something else. The genin exams were coming up in about a month. He was going to have to get by without people noticing how talented he is. Naruto thought, I could do the bare minimum of what is required. I have to hold back some. I don't want to be given any special treatment for my skills. I defiantly don't want to end up like Itachi, going too far out into power and snapping. No, I'm never going to be like that man. Naruto went to get dressed even though it was only 4 in the morning. His outfit was basically the same except the size. The flames were silver, a silver mask that Kakashi got him, and a silver band around his head to cover his scar, which made many girls start swooning over him, which, unlike Sasuke, he enjoyed. The last 2 items he never took off, at least not with people realizing. Not even his mom or dad have seen his face since he was 7. The girls in his class have started a contest to see who can get underneath Naruto's mask. Luckily he got training in not letting people know when you take off your mask by Kakashi. Naruto left the house forgetting to leave a note, as he has done lately. He ran to the ninja memorial as he did every day for a while now. When he got there, Kakashi, Obito and Rin were all there. Naruto looked at them and said, I thought you guys came here earlier in the morning. Rin's reply was, we do usually. Today it is kinda different, seeing what happened 6 years ago. Kakashi seemed less sad than the others for unknown reasons. Obito said, with a guilty voice, yeah, it has been 6 years since Itachi snapped. Naruto, I don't. What would have happened if you weren't there? Sasuke could've. Naruto said, Obito, I don't think that Itachi ever planned on killing Sasuke, just torment him by not killing him. I'm sorry that you had to feel that torment too. Obito started to cry then, and Rin comforted him. They exchanged pleasantries and eventually made their way home. Naruto was unusually unhappy at breakfast. He was talking to his dad about the fighting styles. Eventually he said, Chunin, I have decided to use a different fighting style. Yours is great, and the style I'm going to create is going to be partially based off of the Senkoken, Flash Fist, but it isn't made for me. I have to make variations to your attacks because they use lightning chakra and I have wind. When I do this, the style doesn't work correctly. The Hokage was shocked at first, but then said in a laid-back manner, okay, tell me Naruto, Why did you think I'd make a big deal about it? I was going to find a style that worked better with you, but making your own would be better. Naruto just turned to stone at this as his beautiful redhead mother just laughed. Until it was time for Naruto to go to school, you could hear him say, "NN Nani." At school, Iruka was looking at his class. He sighed because they were restless, but talented no the less. Naruto had started out strong, but he seemed to get worse and worse. Now he was nearly at the bottom of the class, not quite the worst, but close and a prankster. He saw that Naruto was sleeping and that Shikamaru next to him was doing the same. Iruka was pissed. He yelled, "Wake up, you slackers!" as he threw an eraser at Naruto. Naruto caught the eraser and threw it back at Iruka. The class excluding Sakura, Shikamaru and Shino laughed as it hit him in the face. Iruka thought, maybe I'm being a little too hard on him. It is the anniversary of that day. He probably didn't get much sleep. Shikamaru on the other hand, he then threw the eraser at him, who threw it back. This left Iruka very flustered. How do you guys do that? Shikamaru yawned and said, in a half-joking, half-not way, how troublesome. When you sleep as much as this, then you get an innate sense that tells you when you are in danger of an attack, while sleeping. So really we're training right now. Iruka was mad. He was just embarrassed by the two slackers of his class. Well, wake up and open your books to the chapter on the Henj no Jutsu, transformation jutsu, because of those two, we'll be going over it. And where is Sasuke? Don't tell me he's ditching again, was Iruka's angry declaration. There was a sigh coming from Shinatsuhime and Sakura, the two biggest Sasuke fangirls. Then they shot each other the glance. Now that Ino was out of the picture, they were rivals for Sasuke. Forehead, said Shinatsuhime. Fire bug, Sakura shot back. Naruto was enjoying this and would have enjoyed it more if he didn't have to stop to plan his prank. Hinata did her turn and was a perfect copy of Iruka. Eventually Naruto went up and had a smirk on his face. Iruka saw this and said, "Oh no, not again." Naruto stopped. Before he had the chance to finish, Naruto cried out, "Henj no Jutsu, transformation jutsu." There stood a female version of Iruka. She had a scar, a ponytail, and her Chunin jacket barely covered her defined bust. All the males, including Shino, started getting a bloody nose. Then Iruka said something about how he should have learned his lesson by now and how he needs to remember not to let him do his Waroku no Jutsu, sexy jutsu, again. Naruto then felt a killing intent coming from most of the girls. There were a select few who were laughing. Then the girls who weren't started to attack Naruto, who feared for his life. After class, Naruto-kun, would you like to walk me home? Asked a voice in a seductive manner. Naruto shivered at this. There was only two girls bossy enough and confidant enough to talk to him like this, Ino and Hanabi. He hoped it was neither, but knew he was wrong. He turned around and sighed. It was both. He walked them home, along with Hinata, very uncomfortably. I don't know why you even try, Ino. Naruto is going to be mine. Just think about it. My father and his are good friends, Hanabi said to Ino as she got closer to Naruto. Ino said calmly, why would he want a kid like you over me? Besides, my dad is friends with Naruto too. Hanabi smiled and said, I may be a year younger, but unlike you, my sister and me are already developing. This statement was true. Hinata and her little sister seemed to be more well equipped in that area. Hinata started to blush as she heard her sister say this. While she was red, she said, Go Gomen, Ino-san. Ino looked at Hinata and smiled while saying, Don't apologize. It isn't your fault that you have a bratty sister, Hinata-chan. Naruto just thought, just a normal day with these two around each other. They got to Ino's house and Ino pouted, but I wanted to spend more time with you, Naruto-kun. Couldn't we have walked them home first? Then she felt a surge of killing intent aimed at her, but surprisingly it came from the elder Hyuga. Ino thought, oh, Hinata likes Naruto that way, huh? I'll have to watch out for both Hyuga girls. I wonder if Hanabi knows about this. He. Before she knew it, they were gone. At the Hyuga compound. Hanabi-chan, Hinata-chan, why did you need to get away from there so quickly? A confused Naruto asked. Hinata said, it's because, Neji needed to see you about something. This wasn't a lie, it just wasn't the whole truth. She wanted to get him away from that girl. Hanabi had the same plan and thought her sister was just helping her out. Oh, he must want to help me with my taijutsu, Naruto said, remembering that he had asked him and Lee to help, seeing how as they were some of the only people who knew his strength. Neji is going to help you with taijutsu, Naruto? Asked Hiashi, surprised. Yeah, Hiashi-san. I also asked Rock Lee to help too, was Naruto's response. Then the middle-aged Hyuga said, well, I guess that is why his team is waiting for you out back. Man, that Tenten is a looker, am I right, Naruto? The last part Hiashi said in a whisper and a smile on his face that was very unusual for the Hyuga. Naruto smiled back and gave a thumbs up. Tenten was another girl who liked Naruto. Naruto looked at the girl that was a little older than him and said, hello Tenten-chan, how are you? The girl in the pink Chinese dress smiled and blushed. He continued, Neji-kun, how are you? Neji replied, fate smiles on me, though not as much as on you. Naruto laughed a little before turning to his bushy-browed friend and asking, how about you, Lee-kun? The young taijutsu expert said with exuberance, the flames of youth burn brightly for me as I have such a wonderful sensei. What did my eternal springtime rival mean by that statement? Tenten looked embarrassed. Naruto said, in a convincing way, no need to worry about it. It was just a pleasantry. So you guys ready to help me out? Neji nodded and Lee said, yes, me and Guy-sensei will always be there to teach a new person the wonder of taijutsu. Naruto had a sweat drop as he said, that's great, Lee. Wait, don't tell me that Guy-sensei is. Then there was a puff of smoke and an older version of Rock Lee was standing there. He was in a ridiculous pose and said, the Konoha's prideful green beast has something to ask you, life been treatin' ya good? Before anyone could say how corny this was, Lee yelled, Guy-sensei. Isn't it wonderful that Naruto wants to learn about the ways of taijutsu? Miyato Guy just hit his good guy pose and said, yes, Lee, it is wonderful in Naruto to take a liking to taijutsu. At the end of that sentence there was a sunset appearing behind the two. Naruto looked at it with a horrified look, no. Not that genjutsu. I have to shield myself from it. The looks on Tenten and Neji's faces were worse. Tenten looked like she was going to run away and Neji looked like he was facing the Armageddon. Naruto and Tenten took cover behind a stone just in time. He could hear the hugging and Lee calling out, Guy-sensei. And Guy doing the same for Lee. He looked out and saw Neji shocked as the Hyuga said, it was stronger this time. Guy looked at his student and said, look deep into my eyes and accept my sincere apology, also notice my handsome manly features. Naruto had enough of this, can we hurry up and develop my fighting style, for Kami's sake? Guy looked at Naruto and said, our new student is right. We have much to do and little time to do it in. The Genin exams are next month and I heard that they're making them harder than usual. They finally got to work, which they did for a long time. 1 month later, Naruto went to school knowing he was going to pass the exam. He went into the classroom and Iruka looked at Naruto and said, wow, you aren't late. Must be excited for the exams. Then Kiba shouted, it doesn't matter if Naruto is excited or not. In fact, too, that Naruto won't pass. Nobody took that bet because the odds were against him. He smiled and said, I heard there was a twist in the exams this year. What is it, Iruka-sensei? Iruka smiled and said, 3-man team sparring. Anything goes, except killing or heavily injuring. Choose your own partners and I'll say who you fight. Everyone looked at Naruto. Some for an easy opponent, some to team up with. Boy, you guys are in for a surprise, Naruto mumbled. He got on a team with Shikamaru and Choji. He went to tell Iruka, who was surprised that these low flyers were brave enough to be on a team together. Oh well, thought Iruka, the exam isn't about strength. It is about willingness. Maybe they'll try. After all the teams had been assembled, they went out to the training grounds. Okay, Team 1 versus Team 4, Iruka called up. Team 1 seemed calm with Shino, Nekoyoshi, and Takehiko, while Team 4 seemed the opposite with Ino, Kiba, and Chinatsuhime. It seemed to be a stalemate. Nobody was using jutsu, until Shino drained Ino's chakra with his bugs. Then, along with Takehiko, they took down Chinatsuhime in a 2-pronged attack. Kiba struggled against them, but of course he was defeated. Chinatsuhime mumbled something like, if Sasuke was on my team I would have won. Winner Team 4. Next up is Team 3 versus Team Slacker, Iruka said the last part unenthusiastically. Why would a team purposely call themselves that? Thought Iruka. Sasuke, Hinata and Sakura stepped up for Team 3. They seemed like it was only them left. Sakura was glad to be on a team with Sasuke. Sasuke was content knowing that Hinata wasn't one of his fangirls. Hinata was sad because she didn't like Sasuke or Sakura. While Team Slacker was well a bunch of slackers. There was Naruto, Shikamaru and Choji, all had potential, but all slackers. Team 3 was the obvious favorite. "You guys, I have a plan," said a normally tired blonde. Surprisingly, Shikamaru didn't utter his catchphrase. He decided last night that he would try in this test. Choji smiled and asked, "So, what's you plan?" Naruto smiled and said, "Shikamaru, I need you to restrain Hinata. She's our friend and I don't want to hurt her, but her taijutsu could be problematic for us. Choji, I want you to rush Sakura. She seems like the type who can't work like that. Don't be too damaging, she gets scary when angry. I'll handle Sasuke." They all got into a fighting stance and Sasuke was just standing there uninterested. From the start, Shikamaru was sending his shadow at Hinata, who dodged gracefully. After a couple of failed attempts, he caught her. Her mistake was she tried to hit Shikamaru with taijutsu. Capture. Successful. "Hyuga Hinata is in my trap," spoke Shikamaru unusually seriously. She put up a good fight, it was just that the fight was at mid-range and she couldn't do anything to fight back. Just as Naruto said, Sakura wasn't able to think under the attack. Choji kept on going after her. After every attack she got a little better. Her mind was being sharpened in the shinobi way. After a while it was clear Choji needed to use a little force against her. His relentless ATTCK broke her, and right as his fist was right in front of her face did he ask, "Do you surrender?" She nodded and backed out of the arena, scared. I never knew Choji and Shikamaru were so strong. Oh, at least Sasuke can beat them all, thought a certain pink-haired fangirl. Sasuke pulled out a thin sword and said, "I won't be responsible for any damage to you guys if you don't quit now. You two will probably make Genin," but Naruto didn't do anything. Naruto said, "Shikamaru, Choji, take Hinata and get out of the ring. I'll finish him quickly." Choji said, but he was decided to be Rookie of the Year. He stopped questioning after seeing the look on his face. Naruto was sure he would win this fight. Naruto got into a fighting stance that Sasuke had never seen before. He was brave and Sasuke decided to honor that. He posed in a kendo stance. A samurai sword style. "You might want something more flexible," said Naruto. Sasuke swung at Naruto, who put his hands out to block it. "This guy is an idiot. There is no way." "What?" Sasuke thought as his sword came in contact to his opponent's hand and the blade was being fought against by Naruto's hand, which had no blood on it. Naruto then did a quick combo with his hand, slashing his opponent minorly. He went and held his hand in front of Sasuke's throat. "Winner, Team Slacker," said a confused Iruka. All the Sasuke fangirls swore revenge on Naruto. Naruto was asleep as Iruka called out the first teams. Then he woke up right before Iruka called out, "Team 7 will be one of the 3 teams that will have 4 team members as a result of too many students that have passed the exam. It will be made up of Akamichi Choji, Hyuga Hinata, Nara Shikamaru and Uzumaki Naruto. Their sensei will be Hatake Kakashi. Team 8 will also have 4 and will be Aburame Shino, Inazuka Kiba, Nayaki Nekoyoshi, and Yamanaka Ino, with Yuhi Kurenai as their sensei." Naruto zoned out when he looked at Ino. She was pouting about how she wasn't on Naruto's team. Naruto gave a short sigh. He was glad that she wasn't on his team. Wait, Naruto thought with a smile under his mask, everybody else has been called up for their teams, which means Sasuke has. Iruka said, Team 10 will also have 4 genin. They are Fujiyatsu Sachinatsuhime, Haruno Sakura, Kubuken Takehiko and Uchiha Sasuke. Oh, their sensei will be Sarutobi Asuma, and Uchiha Obito asked to be an apprentice sensei this year as a Chunin. Naruto noticed that Sasuke wasn't happy that he was on a team with his 2 biggest fangirls. Plus, his guardian was helping out with Asuma. He shot Naruto a look that said, "Kill me now." Naruto snickered as he thought that he was glad that he didn't have any fam girls on his team, or so he thought. Shikamaru even laughed at Sasuke's team arrangement. Naruto started to walk out the door after everybody left. Hinata asked, Naruto, where are you going? Isn't Kakashi sensei going to be here soon? Bwahahaha. Kakashi getting here on time. That's funny, Hinata-chan. No, he's always late. I figure we have about an hour before he comes here. I'm gonna get some ramen. See ya in about 45 minutes. He dashed off before anyone could ask how he knew Kakashi. An hour later, Naruto was back, with a full stomach. Kakashi walked in the door and Naruto said, you're early. Wanted to make a good impression on those three. Kakashi smiled under his mask, closed his eye and said, why yes Naruto-kun, I did. I also wanted to see what I thought about you guys. My first thoughts are positive. They went off to a place to talk. Kakashi said, okay, let's introduce ourselves. I'll go first. My name is Kakashi Hatake. My likes, dislikes and dreams are none of your business. Okay, go Pineapple Head. Shikamaru sighed and said, my name is Shikamaru Nara. I like watching the clouds, sleeping and playing shogi. My dislikes are going things that require energy, troublesome women and actual effort. My goal in life is to marry a woman who is not too pretty and not too ugly and have one boy and a girl. Kakashi thought. He is realistic, a low flyer, but realistic nonetheless. His goal isn't ambitious, but it is something that he wants. Then he said, okay, your turn Akamichi. Choji nodded and said, my name is Choji Akamichi. I like barbecue, potato chips and my friends. I dislike it when people make fun of me by calling me fatty or such. I hope to become a ninja in the Anbu agency and keep connections with my friends. He has average concerns. He seems pretty team-oriented, was Kakashi's thoughts. He then pointed to Hinata who was ready. Hello. My name is Hinata Hyuga. My likes are gardening, my friends and talking to my sister Hanabi. My dislikes are flowers dying and my failed attempts at things. I one day hope to be the pride and joy of the Hyuga clan and teach other genin to be ninjas, she said. Kakashi thought. She seems to have a confidence problem, hopefully we can fix that little problem. Kakashi then said, Blondie, what are you like? Naruto casually said, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, like you didn't know that. I like my friends, my family, ramen, and girls. I don't like the time it takes to cook ramen, people who don't even try to act friendly at times, and when my dad has extreme amounts of work. Everybody knows it is my dream to surpass my dad and become Hokage of the village. Kakashi smirked as he thought, same old Naruto. I wonder why is it that he holds back so much. Okay everyone, tomorrow we will meet at training ground 17. Oh, don't eat breakfast or you'll throw up, said Kakashi. Naruto said, oh, are we going to be doing a certain bell test tomorrow? The results of which will decide if we stay genin. Kakashi kept his usual bored look, but thought, damn his father telling him about the test. Naruto smiled as Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. Next morning, Naruto was at the training ground. He had already eaten because he knew the test. He told his friends to eat too. Then Kakashi arrived in a puff of smoke an hour late. He was yelled at by all the guys and then he said, Naruto-kun, you were right. This is going to be the bell test, or at least it was. Now it is a test to capture me for 30 seconds. Whoever catches me will get a prize. Naruto watched as his sensei went into the forest. Naruto stopped everyone from splitting up. He said, the point of these after graduation tests is to measure teamwork. That's what we'll do, this is a team. Hinata-chan, use your Byakugan to look around. Choji-kun and I will be the frontal attack with support from Hinata-chan. We'll push him towards you, Shikamaru-kun. After that we just pin him. Shikamaru said, hey, why to get to make the plan? Hinata-chan is more than capable to do it, Choji-kun too. I could do it, but that's too troublesome. Naruto said, it is because I know Kakashi-sensei the best. He is an ex-Anbu agent, was a jonin at the age of 12 and has the famous Sharingan hidden under that headband. Shikamaru gulped and then said, okay, we're going with Naruto's plan, just make sure I don't have to fight him. With Hinata they easily found their sensei and got Shikamaru into place. Okay Shikamaru-kun, are you ready? You are the most vital part of our plan. Shikamaru nodded and mumbled something about a troublesome blonde. Choji-kun now, cried Naruto. Buban Baika no Jutsu, partial multi-size jutsu, Choji said as a giant fist came flying towards Kakashi. He jumped back and put away his perv book. Then 10 Narutos came and blocked off on way to escape and Hinata another. Kakashi thought, do they expect me to fall for this? Just then his limbs locked up as the Naruto closest to him turned into Shikamaru. Naruto said, "Good plan to throw off Kakashi with a different one knowing he was listening." Kakashi was embarrassed that he was outsmarted by his own students. Shikamaru just smiled and said, "Well, based off the information you gave to me yesterday on our sensei's abilities, I was able to make a plan knowing that clones would be patrolling." "Oh, and nice acting by the way." Naruto laughed and said, "Well, make sure he doesn't escape." "Oh, and I guess I can wear this now." Naruto pulled out a silver leaf headband and put it on without letting anyone see his scar. Hinata was guarding Kakashi with her bloodline active, Choji with his giant fists, and Naruto with, well, 50 of himself. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, uttered Shikamaru, who was keeping track of the time. "Congrats to all of you, you pass. The first group in years to do so." At Jonin meeting, the Yondaime was there and he said, "So, how did all the Tems do?" It was unusual, but straight to the point. A female stepped up and said, "Only 3 teams passed. The 3 teams with 4 members." "Huh, that's funny. Kakashi hasn't passed anyone in years, but this team that everybody said wouldn't pass did." Kakashi said, "Have you ever thought that they might hold themselves back?" Shikamaru is smart, but too lazy to do anything. Choji has a lot of strength, but isn't that willing to fight. Hinata is a good ninja, but is trapped by her shyness. Naruto is a moron, someone finished. The Yondaime looked mad. "He's my son, Yano." The one who said it froze up as he heard that. He then smiled and said, "Well, say hello to the rookie 12. Man, that's weird to say." Naruto's house. Minato got home and Naruto asked, "So Tusen, get stuck at a meeting?" Minato just nodded and tossed Naruto a scroll. Naruto was confused and looked at his dad. His father just said, "Summoning contract." Naruto was shocked. He didn't think his father was going to let him sign the contract yet. He then noticed that it was small and said, "Aren't the strongest summoning contract copies bigger?" Minato nodded. Naruto continued, "Then why is this one so small?" Minato said, "Just like you said, the strongest copies are big. This is actually the strongest for the Toads. It is a legendary original contract. One of the few left in existence. Notice how it is made." Then Naruto did look at it. It was old, but was made perfectly. The wood was a special one that Naruto could only identify as an ancient Japanese cedar that was encrusted with unidentifiable crystals. Its paper was fine and had an even grain. How does it work?" asked Naruto. "Well, it's simple, but different from the current process. You just sign your name, roll it up and pour chakra into it until the jewels light up," explained the current Hokage. Naruto did exactly as he was told, but something interesting happened. The crystals started to produce a soothing flame outside of it. Lucky, that means that you get to be able to summon past the boss Toad. It's to be expected, though. That trait is normally pasted down from parent to child. "Oh, hold on," said his dad as he started doing something weird. Then the kanji for Toad formed on his left hand. Minato smiled and said, "Just store chakra in there every now and again so you don't actually have to spend it on this. When you want to activate it, put some blood on it and decide how much chakra you want to use. Try out your summoning." Naruto went outside and did the hand seals as he didn't store any chakra in the seal and slammed his palm to the ground. "Kuchio's no jutsu, summoning jutsu," Naruto yelled, pouring much of his chakra into the jutsu. Minato smirked as he saw a huge puff of smoke summoned and he knew who it was. "Oi, Gamabunta-san, it would seem that my son summoned you," he yelled to the giant toad. This little guy. That's pretty impressive, but I'm afraid that you can only summon me in dire situations, that is until you are old enough to be a drinking partner," said the giant toad. Naruto just nodded, amazed that he was actually able to summon. "On a mission. Okay, target is in sight. Ready to deploy capture, Shikamaru-kun?" asked Naruto. "Hi," was his response. "Now!" exclaimed Naruto. Choji and Hinata bursted from their spots and surrounded their target, which had no choice but to run into Shikamaru's shadow. "Target has been captured. Total elapsed time from the moment we got the mission to now was 6 minutes, thanks to Hinata's tracking skills," said Shikamaru. Hinata walked over and picked up the captured cat, who started to purr. They turned the cat in and got congratulated for having the record. Minato said, "I'm guessing that you want a C rank mission now." I have the perfect one. Tazuna-san, come in now. An older man came in with an unopened bottle of sake in his hand. Naruto caught a whiff of it and said, "Wave sake. That is some good stuff. I have some Iwa sake that doesn't produce the same taste, but is more fine. I'll let you have some of mine if I can have a glass of yours." Tazuna laughed and said, "I like this kid. Here, I'll trade you this bottle for yours. I have always loved Iwa sake." Kakashi gave Minato a stern look and said, "Isn't Naruto too young to drink?" Minato said, "Hey, me and my wife both say, old enough to kill, old enough to do anything." Kakashi looked disappointed in his sensei. Minato smiled and said, "You will be escorting Tazuna-san back to Wave Country. Meet out in front of the gates in 1 hour." Kakashi, that means 1 hour. 1 hour later. Kakashi was surprisingly on time. As they were walking, Naruto was talking to Tazuna. He was mainly talking about the sake of various places, the effects of said sake and the tastes. Then Naruto asked, "So what's the Wave Country like?" Tazuna hesitated and then said, "It's a wonderful place that is isolated from the other countries. I'm building a bridge that will make transport of goods easier for our country." Naruto just smirked and nodded. As they were walking down the road, Naruto noticed a puddle. It was there despite the fact it didn't rain last night. He braced himself for a fight and he noticed that Kakashi noticed it too, but was pretending he didn't. Then when they were a good distance away, 2 Chunin jumped out of it and attacked Tazuna. Kakashi stopped the first one with his own chain, but the one with the claw managed to get by. Naruto extended his fist out to the claw as his sensei cried, "No, Naruto, mist nin poison their blade weapons." The claw broke as it made contact to Naruto, but it looked like the claw nicked him. Kakashi and his team ran over to Naruto, but noticed that there was no cut. Kakashi looked at Naruto and said, "How was your punch able to break though that strong steel?" Choji then said, "Yeah, I've actually wanted to know for a while, but how were you able to match Sasuke-san's sword with your hand?" Naruto just said, "Wind." Hinata said, with a blush, and Naruto that doesn't explain much. Naruto continued, "Ah, Hinata-chan, but it does. I have an affinity with wind-type chakra, which is perfect for blades." I started to think, well, what if I channel it the same way only in my body parts? So I tried it and my taijutsu attacks became stronger than swords. Kakashi was impressed by his student's taijutsu capabilities. He was able to beat a Chunin in a quick combo. "Tazuna, is there something you're not telling us?" "That was a ninja attack. This mission is at least a B rank. What is your story?" asked Kakashi. Tazuna sighed and told them about the evils of Gato and how he needed to build the bridge. Naruto was pissed. He wanted to rip off Gato's head and he said, "Let's go to Wave Country. We'll even stay there until the bridge is done." Kakashi smiled and nodded, "On one condition. When everything is normal again, you pay for an A- rank mission." Tazuna nodded. On way to Wave Country. Tazuna and Naruto have finished their discussion on sake, now they were drinking a little. Naruto knew not to get drunk, so he only took a sip every now and again. The group reached a lake area and Naruto had an uneasy feeling. They decided to take a break for a while and Naruto just knew someone was going to attack. Just then a ninja with no shirt on and a huge sword came out. Naruto groaned and said, "Zabuza Momochi. Why am I always right about these things?" Zabuza said, "Hey, I must be pretty famous for a genin to know me." "Wait, Kakashi Hatake is here too. Tell me, are you still in the Iwa bingo book? Oh, also, what's with the kid wearing a mask like yours?" Kakashi just smiled and said, "Yes, I am in the Iwa bingo book, but you'll never beat me." The kid is wearing the mask because he enjoys people trying to see what's under it without letting them see. I must agree that it is fun to do. Zabuza said, "Whatever. I'll send some water clones to deal with the kids, but you and me will be fighting." Water clones started to attack the 4 genin. Choji just did a partial expansion and started to attack the clones 3 by 3. Shikamaru caught 8 clones and had Choji destroy them in one attack. Naruto thought, I'll have to work on his combat capabilities. Well, when this is over is the perfect chance. Hinata easily defeated all the clones by herself, although her Juken style was kind of sloppy. Naruto just dodged until there were about 10 around him. He smirked under his mask and took down all 10 with his wind fists. Zabuza was impressed by all, but Naruto's attacks are what got his attention. Then Zabuza did a feint and trapped Kakashi in an orb of water. Naruto finished up the rest of the clones and noticed his sensei. Kakashi yelled, "Don't fight him, any of you. He is too powerful for you to match." Zabuza laughed and said, "Yes. Run, you little genin. You may have destroyed my water clones, but they only have a fraction of my power." Naruto said, "My dad is Konoha's Yellow Flash. He got that title with his teleportation jutsu. I tried learning it once, but unfortunately it uses lightning chakra, a lot of it. I have wind chakra, so I wasn't able to use it. Although, I made my own version. Hisho Uendo Tenma no Jutsu, Soaring Wind Demon Jutsu." Naruto vanished from everybody's eyes for a second. He was instantly over by Zabuza, and as soon as he was seen again, a wind blast was hitting Zabuza, forcing him to let Kakashi free. Naruto snickered as he said, "Oh, did I forget to mention the auto K's, scaring wind, that comes after." Kakashi smiled under his mask and said, "Nice going, Naruto. Now move aside and let me finish this." Naruto said, "With all due respect, this is my fight now. I can't let you reveal your Sharingan. Plus, don't you want to see my full power?" It was the last part that got his attention. He smirked and went off to the sidelines. He was wondering how strong Naruto was. He thought, Naruto, take this seriously. The Cyclops sat down ready for a good fight. Zabuza was the first to make a move. He made a vertical slice downward with his sword. Naruto simply moved to the side and then he jumped on top of the sword and punched Zabuza in the face, hard. Zabuza was forced back a little and he decided that he would go all out on this kid. The ex-mist ninja did some hand seals and said, "Suiden. Suiryuden no Jutsu, Water Release. Water Dragon Blast Jutsu." Naruto smirked as he said, "Luckily I finished my hand signs, too. Futon. Kaizoryuden no Jutsu, Wind Release. Wind Dragon Blast Jutsu." As the two dragons struggled for dominance over the other, the two who summoned them were pouring their chakra into the attack. In the trees, a kunoichi wearing a mask was warring for her master. She might have to save him. Then she thought, but I don't want to hurt that cute blonde boy. The two dragons were still clashing. The dragons went to hit the other for one last time. As they hit, they exploded into ice as the chakra mixed together. The two fighters needed to win at that point. Hinata was confused and asked her sensei, "Why did Naruto-kun and Zabuza-san want to have their dragons fight for so long?" Kakashi replied, "That would have been a psychological victory. It would have made the other more prone to make mistakes. Also, they wanted to show who was the dominate one. It's a male thing." Then she noticed that her other two teammates were nodding. Zabuza made a slash with his sword and Naruto countered it with his hand. Zabuza noticed how Naruto was putting up his hand and said, "You fool. I'll slice through your hand." What? Naruto's hand blocked the blade and now they were struggling to see who was better. Naruto was struggling, but then started using both hands. Naruto pushed at Zabuza's giant blade as hard as he could and forced Zabuza to have an opening. Zabuza's eyes widened in shock as his blade was pushed out of the way. Naruto channeled as much chakra as he could to make a pocket of air so he wouldn't feel the full impact of his punch. As he hit him, he sent his foe flying back. As an added attack, Naruto pushed more chakra into the pocket of air, causing it to burst and hit Zabuza. The nuke nin hit a tree and fell down. Naruto closed in on him, pulling a kunai out of his pouch. He held it reversally and was ready to take down the demon of the mist. As he was about to kill, two Sanbans started flying through the air. Naruto grabbed them in midair and said, "You can come out now, Hunter Nin-chan." A girl in a white and red mask came out and walked towards Naruto. She said, "Hello, I've been sent to kill this traitor." Naruto said, "Well, isn't it just great for him that these two Sanbans were heading towards an area in the neck that would put him in a death-like state?" She smiled under her mask as she thought, "Smart, strong and cute, a dangerous combination." Naruto then whispered in her ear, "What is a cute thing like you doing working for Zabuza?" She blushed, jumped over him and transported Zabuza away. Naruto smirked and then realized he'd have a lot to explain to his friends. He walked on the water over towards his team who just stared at him. Choji started, "How?" Shikamaru continued, "Did you?" Hinata was about to say something, but Kakashi finished, "How did you do that, Naruto? Geez, you guys are shinobi now. Learn how not to be surprised." Naruto said, Hold on, I need to eat something real quick. He pulled out some food and started to eat it all. He sighed and said, well, all of you know who my father is. I have kinda been training with him in the ninja arts since I was 6. Do you guys recall at the beginning how I was strong? Then after a while it seemed like I was struggling. His teammates just nodded as he continued, well, I was holding back in that period. There was a silence that Hinata broke by asking, why Naruto-kun? He smiled and said, that one is easy. I held back so I didn't get onto an accelerated program because of the fact that I wouldn't be able to spend as much, if any, time with you guys. Kakashi gave a smile under his mask and said, well, I guess that was why you were able to pass my test. The fact that you cared about friendship enough to hold yourself back for it. People say that in the ninja world, those who break the rules are scum. This is true. But, those who abandon their friends are worse than scum. Naruto smiled at this, although nobody, but Kakashi could notice this. In Wave Country, Tsunami let her father's bodyguards stay with her until the bridge was complete. It was the least that she could do for them. Also, the bridge was near completion. There was a week and a half left for construction and then the bridge would be complete. Kakashi said, okay guys, we have to go train. Oh, and you can thank Naruto for giving me the ability to make a grueling training exercise for you. If he hadn't stepped in for me, I would have had to use my Sharingan and be out for the rest of the week. Naruto then felt 2 killing intents aimed at him. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and said, okay. I'll go train by myself now. Kakashi said, no Naruto. You'll be training with your teammates and helping me teach them. Naruto didn't even try to object. Everybody walked to the forest and Kakashi said, all of you have something you need to work on. Hinata, your Juken is awkward. Choji, you're a little slow and need to work on chakra control. Shikamaru, you have no physical capabilities. Naruto, your close range fighting is good, but you need to learn long range better. I know you know how to use weapons well, but expand yourself. Learn more genjutsu. I have a training exercise for all of you. Everybody shivered as they thought of the worst. We'll work on you all one by one. Choji, you're first, said Kakashi. He then explained the training to Choji. He had to put on 200 pounds of weights, run around, while 3 of Kakashi fastest and most vicious dogs chased him. Choji was running around yelling, you're the devil Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi just smirked under his mask. After about 2 hours of this running, Kakashi said, okay pups, that's all for now. Choji fell on the floor gasping for air. He was surprised that he was able to last that long and then he fainted. Shikamaru looked at his friend with a sympathetic look. He heard Kakashi say, Hinata, you'll be sparring with me. It'll make you form a parallel version of the Juken that is more suited to you. Don't worry, I know how to fight against the Byakugan. They started to spar. Hinata rushed him with a simple attack and Kakashi just pushed it aside. He kicked her away and got back into a defensive stance. This went on for a while, with Hinata getting better every attack. It got to the point Hinata got close to him and he attacked her upper body. She leaned backwards, shifted her weight into her hands, flipped herself and kicked Kakashi straight in the chin. He rubbed his chin in pain and weakly said, good job Hinata. What do you call that kick? Hinata said shyly, the Juwashi's gentle kick. He laughed and mumbled something like there was nothing gentle about that kick. Kakashi looked at his lazy student and said, Shikamaru, you need to work on taijutsu. Which is why I'm going to have you fight 20 of Naruto's clones, without any ninjutsu or genjutsu. Naruto smiled as he said, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Then 20 more Narutos appeared ready for battle. Shikamaru battled all of them. He got battered and bruised as he went up against his teammate. He could tell that each one was underpowered and he was able to beat them. Kakashi noticed this too and said, Naruto, Shikamaru needs to be up against strong opponents. Next time make it more challenging for him. Shikamaru said, you think this is too easy for me? I have marks all over my body, I almost broke both of my arms. So, you didn't? Kakashi asked. Shikamaru said, I wouldn't have been able to fight if I did. Kakashi said, but you didn't break your arms, did you now? Shikamaru was beginning to get ticked off and was about to yell at the Cyclops once more, but Kakashi cut him off by saying, okay everybody, take a piece of paper and put some chakra into it. The result of this will help me know what kind of training to give you guys tomorrow. Shikamaru grabbed one ticked off, Choji got up and grabbed one, Hinata grabbed one shyly, and Naruto didn't grab one. Everyone, but Naruto, was pouring their chakra into this paper. Shikamaru's caught fire, Hinata's got wet, and Choji's turned to dust. Kakashi looked at Naruto and asked, "Your wind right?" Naruto nodded and Kakashi laughed a little and said, "Wow. If you include me with lightning, we have every single chakra type on this team. Your wind, Choji is earth, Shikamaru is fire, and Hinata is extremely water affiliated. Man, I'm going to have to break out a lot of jutsus to show you guys." Naruto smiled under his mask, knowing that he'd learn a new jutsu or two soon. Shikamaru sighed out of pain, Hinata was smiling with accomplishment, and Choji fell asleep exhausted. They went in and had dinner. The kid named Inari remained silent until these shinobi started talking about Gato. He yelled, "Shut up. There is no way that you guys can beat him, so why even try?" Naruto then had a foul look on his face. He said, "You little brat, hope is the one thing that should never be given up." Inari got pissed and said, "You don't know what despair is. You must have a pretty good life back in your ninja village." Naruto looked at him and said, "You're right, I do have a good life in my ninja village. I've also gone through things that you'd sell your soul not to hear about. You're just afraid to stand up for what you believe in, like your gramps here, you crybaby." Gocha-sama, note at end. Naruto left the table and went out onto the roof. As Inari was dumbstruck. How could anyone be that brave? Thought the young boy. Kakashi said, "The kid did go through a lot. Also, he knows this as well. Both of his parents almost died on the day that he was born. He has something that makes people dislike him at first. He watched his hero turn into a villain in an instant and was unable to stop him." Inari knew that this man didn't even go into detail. He started feeling sick of the fact that this blonde guy went through a lot and came out nice, while he went through some hard times and became bitter. Inari went off to his room slowly. He didn't cry a single step, but he did, contemplating about this strange blonde boy. The next morning, before Team 7 could even eat breakfast, they were dragged into the forest to train. Kakashi said, "I will teach all of you guys 2 new jutsus based off your elements. Choji, you will learn the Doden Doro Bakugeki no Jutsu, Earth Release, Mud Bomber Jutsu, and the Doden Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu, Earth Release, Inner Decapitation Jutsu. Both of these are easy. They require little chakra. The second one needs less chakra than the Kawarimi no Jutsu, Body Replacement Jutsu. The first one, at your chakra control level, you'll be able to use about 7 times a day." Choji smiled as he was going to learn cool jutsus that required little chakra. Kakashi looked at Hinata and said, "You have excellent chakra control, so you'll learn a mixture of high and low ranking jutsus. Today I'll teach you the Suiten Mizu Bakua no Jutsu, Water Release, Water Blaster Jutsu, and the Suiten Suiryu Suiju Misairu no Jutsu, Water Release, Water Dragon Aquatic Missile Jutsu, which is a toned down form of the Suiten Suiryuden no Jutsu, Water Release, Water Dragon Blast Jutsu." Hinata was frightened at how powerful the last one sounded. Kakashi looked at Shikamaru and said, "In order for you to be able to fight in close combat, I'll teach you the Kaden Kan Shindo no Jutsu, Fire Release, Flame Impact Jutsu, and the Kaden Yuge Juden no Jutsu, Fire Release, Steam Replenishing Jutsu, when you need to restore some of your chakra through relaxation." Shikamaru looked indifferent, but he was actually happy with this at the moment. Kakashi looked at his sensei's hyperactive son and said, "You know a lot of jutsus probably, but I'll teach you some you don't know. Let's see, how about the futon Nibaigai no K's, Wind Release, Double Scythes of Wind, and the futon Tatsubaki no Genkaku no Jutsu, Wind Release, Tornado Illusion Jutsu." Kakashi showed them all appropriate hand signs and showed what it was supposed to look like. The team proceeded to working on their jutsu all day. Once they learned how to do one, they kept on doing it until they got tired. Hinata was able to do her stronger jutsu 3 times before getting tired from overexertion. Her weaker one 16 times before having the same effect. Choji's weaker one required little chakra, so he was able to do it 10 times in a row. As Kakashi predicted, he was only able to do the slightly stronger one 7 times. Shikamaru was able to hit with his offensive jutsu 6 times, but got a little burn after the 7th try. His rejuvenation jutsu gave him more chakra, but made him weaker until his body rested some. Naruto was able to do the genjutsu well enough, but the new assassination jutsu was hard and he could only use it twice effectively. The others went back to go to bed, but Naruto stayed behind. He continuously tried the jutsu multiple times, but after 2 successful times it would become too weak to cut through anything. After 2 shots Naruto was determined, I need to focus. He went into a trance-like state, did the hand seals quickly. In a low focused voice he said, Futon. Nibaigai no K's, wind release. Double scythes of wind. He then released 2 gusts of wind that went diagonally opposite to each other and they flew towards a tree and sliced it cleanly in half. Naruto had a smile on his face and fell asleep happy. In the morning, Naruto was asleep when a girl came up to him and shook him awake. Naruto woke up and took a moment to put everything together. He laughed and said, wow, must have dozed off after learning how to use it a 3rd time. Thanks for waking me up. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Who are you? The girl blushed and said, hello Naruto-kun, I am Haku. Do you by any chance have any special people? Naruto grinned and said, well of course, I have my parents, my friends, there are some people back in Konoha. So Haku-chan, is Zabuza-san your special person? Haku was shocked. She flipped backwards and pulled out several senbons and said, don't hurt him. Naruto had a neutral face and said, I don't want to fight and besides I think that Zabuza is a good person who just strayed off. I think that Gato will order some people to kill him after our battle. I think you should get him off of Gato's side quickly. Haku thought, you are right Naruto Uzumaki. I will go tell him immediately. She then disappeared in a hurry. Naruto did not rush after her as he knew that he'd be seeing her again. Naruto started to walk in the direction the house was. He knew the others would be worried. Several days later, Team 7 knew an attack would be coming all too soon as the bridge was about a day's work from completion. Naruto just hoped that Haku was able to get Zabuza to listen to her. When he saw 2 figures coming he knew it wasn't so. Kakashi yelled, Hinata, Choji protect Tazuna. Shikamaru. Naruto take care of the girl, I'll handle Zabuza. Zabuza just laughed as he lunged at Kakashi, blade readied. Naruto and Shikamaru went after the girl. Shikamaru formed the symbol for rat and said, Kajimane no Jutsu, shadow imitation jutsu. His shadow started to move towards the girl, but she managed to escape it. Naruto had a fist flying at her, but she caught it and did a one-handed seal. Naruto was in shock as she said, Sensatsu Susho, 1,000 flying water needles. She jumped backwards to avoid her attack. Naruto noticed that there were no needles coming from overhead so he jumped as high as he could. He got a couple of nicks on his ankle, but he noticed that Shikamaru wasn't hit. She said, this is an inconvenience, but I must help Zabuza-sama. She made a weird hand sign and said, Makio Hyo show demonic ice mirrors. Then all the water around started to gather around the 2 genin and solidified into ice mirrors. Haku appeared in every mirror and then senbons started flying all around. Naruto was hit many times, but Shikamaru was hit worse. They tried to get out, but they couldn't. Shikamaru got hit badly and fell to the floor. Naruto got mad and he felt an evil presence wash over his body. He released a fraction of the Kyuubi's chakra and started to destroy every mirror, but the one she was in. He looked at it and forced her out of it. Naruto looked at his friend's wounds then looked at her. Naruto rushed towards her and she did not run. He came up clenched fist and flicked her, destroying her mask. She was shocked at this and said, aren't you going to kill me for doing that to your friend? She pointed at Shikamaru. Naruto just said, why? All those wounds on him aren't fatal. The only reason he is down is because of the pain. You should hurry to Zabuza-san. He'll be pretty hurt. Hopefully Gato doesn't come, yet. Haku ran over to Zabuza who was injured and Kakashi was standing over him, Sharingan blazing. While Haku was away, Naruto removed all the senbons in Shikamaru and forced a green pill down his throat. Shikamaru woke up and said, you were right Naruto, she is a good person. It was unfortunate for Zabuza that he never went up against Kakashi's Sharingan. Zabuza said, hey, you win Kakashi-san. I won't kill Tazuna-san. Haku-chan, right now I need a friend more than a weapon, will you be that friend? Haku nodded and showed a beautiful smile. This is so sweet I could just vomit, a voice said in the distance. There was a short, rich-looking man off in the distance. Everyone knew that this was Gato. About 100 bandits surrounded him. Naruto looked at this man in disgust. He did hand seals so quickly that nobody was able to see him do it. He said, in a low whisper, Futon. Nibaigai no K's, wind release. Double scythes of wind. The blades went and slashed Gato cleanly in half. Zabuza got up and said, I think I can manage against this trash, with some help. He looked over at Team 7 who nodded. The bandits were scared and started heading towards the town. When they turned around they saw an army of townspeople with Inari leading them. The kid said, Naruto-kun, you were right. Thank you. Naruto smiled and then went into a determined state as he started attacking with the rest of his group. After bridge completion, Zabuza asked Kakashi, Kakashi-san, this is kinda embarrassing for me to ask, but I'm tired of being a missing nin with Haku. Could you? Kakashi laughed a little and said, me and Naruto could get his dad to let you and Haku in the village. Zabuza said, how could his dad do that? Kakashi said, he's the Hokage. Zabuza smirked and went to find Haku. Haku was flirting with Naruto when she heard the good news. She asked, Naruto, could we stay with you and your parents until we get our own place? Naruto said, it's fine by me, but I'll need to ask my parents when I get home. Haku smiled and then blushed at the thought of being in the same house as Naruto. As they were leaving, one townsperson asked, so what are we going to call this bridge? Tazuna said, let's name it after something great. Let's name it the Tsunami interrupted, we aren't naming it after sake. Tazuna looked irritated and said, I wasn't talking about sake. I was going to say the Great Naruto Bridge. Inari spoke up and said, I agree with Gramps. Konoha's gates. The guard was eyeing Zabuza who was standing there. He said, Momochi-san, as you are not a ninja of Konoha, yet, you are not allowed to carry that sword of yours. Zabuza looked irritated and handed his huge sword over to Kakashi as Haku giggled at him. The guard then said, okay, you're clear to go in to speak to the Hokage. Zabuza just thought, it's about time, you little prick. They went into the Hokage's office and Naruto was smiling at his dad. They told him what happened on the mission and he looked very intrigued. He said, okay then, Kakashi, your team will be receiving credit for completing an A- rank mission. Anything else? Zabuza looked up and said, yeah, Hokage-san, me and Haku would like to join the village. Minato nodded and Kakashi said, me and Naruto will vouch for them. Right now, don't we want to strengthen our ninja force? Well, there is an assassination specialist and an ice user wanting to join the village. Minato just shrugged and said, whatever. Do you have a place to stay? Naruto said, actually Tusen, I was wondering, we have a big house with extra rooms, so, this gave the yellow flash a lecherous grin and a thumbs up as he said, wow Naruto, I was 15 before I started to bring girls home. Naruto returned the smile, until he noticed that there were still other people there. He looked around and everyone was staring at him. He fumbled as he said, I mean, you pervert. He hit the back of his dad's head. Minato smiled and said, it's okay if they stay for a while. I better not catch you in the same bed. Hinata and Haku were both blushing after that comment. Naruto looked at his female teammate and he said, Hinata-chan, you're all red. Do you have a fever? He put his hand to her face, which only made her redder. Shikamaru, Choji, and Kakashi all thought, can he really be that oblivious? Oh well, I guess it's because he's used to more assertive girls, like Ino or Hanabi. The team gave their full report and Zabuza and Haku were given ninja ranks. Zabuza was a Jonin rank and Haku a Chunin rank. Naruto showed Zabuza and Haku where his house was so they could get used to it. After they left, he walked with his teams to all their houses. Naruto asked Shikamaru on the way to the first house, hey Shikamaru-kun, isn't your birthday coming up soon? Shikamaru nodded and said, yeah, it's a couple of days away. Why do you ask? Naruto just shrugged. They got to Shikamaru's house and they said goodbye. Naruto went up to Choji and said, tomorrow we're going to work on that chakra control of yours. Meet me at training ground 22. Choji nodded and said, so, why do you ask Shikamaru-kun if his birthday is coming up? Naruto said, I needed an excuse to get him a gift. Choji looked confused. Then he turned around to Hinata-chan who was looking at him with an unusual stare. He thought, Well, it isn't that unusual. Hinata always stares like that. He said, Hinata, you should come too. She just nodded while blushing deeply. He Choji home and then Hinata. He then felt a weird when he got to the Hyuga compound. He realized who was here and he started to look around. From behind him Hanabi tackled him in an enormous hug. She said, my. It seems you haven't visited in a while, now have you Naruto-kun? Naruto said, I've been on a mission. She giggled and said, well, why'd it take so long? It couldn't have been more than a C-ranked mission. Naruto broke free of the hug, put his hand behind his head, smiled, and said, originally it was a C-ranked mission, but then it was upgraded to an A-ranked mission. Hanabi was impressed by her not-so-secret crush and it showed. She smiled lecherously and said, oh my big strong Naruto-kun. Will you help me train tomorrow? Naruto said, I'm actually helping Hinata and Choji train tomorrow, but you can come along. It will be at Training Ground 22. Okay. Naruto-kun, said Hanabi seductively. Hinata was becoming quickly irritated by her sister's actions. She hid it well, but it was still there. She said, see you tomorrow Naruto-kun. Hanabi was surprised by her sister's lack of stuttering, but she noticed that she had a very dark blush on her face. Hanabi smiled as she thought, well, a little sibling rivalry won't hurt. What does not kill you makes you stronger. Naruto-kun will be mine. The next day at Training Ground 22. Naruto was having Hanabi and Hinata train their Juken together, while helped Choji with tree climbing. Choji was quickly improving in this exercise, so Naruto taught him water walking. It took longer, but Choji mastered it. Naruto smiled and said, time for my own exercise. It's called waterfall climbing. It's essentially water walking and tree climbing combined. You can't anchor yourself too much, as the force of the waterfall will bring you down, but also if you do it too little then you'll just fall down. Don't worry, there isn't any hard rocks at the bottom. Choji looked at him like he was crazy, but he proceeded to trying it. He tried for the rest of the day, but he was only able to climb 1/4 of the way up. His chakra control and reserves were better though. Hinata was able to beat his little sister half of the time. Choji was tired, but Naruto forced him to shoot as many Doden, Doro Bakugeki no Jutsus, Earth Release, Mud Bomber Jutsu, as he could. Choji was reluctant, but even in his tired state he was able to shoot off 14 shots. Before I could only shoot 7 shots with all my chakra. How am I able to shoot 14 at half chakra? Asked a very confused Akamichi. It's simple. First, your chakra control has become much better and your entire chakra capacity has also improved, stated Naruto. Shikamaru's birthday. Shikamaru heard a loud knock on his door at 8 in the morning. He got up and opened the door. He saw Naruto standing there and he yelled, it's 8 in the morning and my fricking birthday. What do you want, you troublesome blonde? Naruto chuckled and threw Shikamaru 2 presents. The top one is from me, the bottom is from my parents. Open them. Shikamaru did just that. The top one was a short chain and the bottom was a set of unusual kunai. Shikamaru asked, what am I going to do with a short chain and weird kunai? Naruto smiled and said, the kunai are chakra reactant and will force someone to become immobilized if it hits their shadow. If you channel the chakra in, it was only Inara knows how. The chain, well, visualize it bigger, while pouring chakra into it. Shikamaru did this and the chain started to extend itself with the chakra. Shikamaru smirked and asked, is there more? Naruto smirked back and said, oh yeah. Try and move the chain without moving your arm. Shikamaru held his arm out completely still and had the chain wrap around his arm. Naruto said, you'll need more training, but aren't you glad I woke you up now? Shikamaru nodded and thought, this is one training I'll actually enjoy. He then had his chain wrap around Naruto's leg and he pulled. Naruto landed with a thud and he asked, what was that for? Never wake me up on my birthday again. But, you might as well teach me how to use this thing better, said the Nara boy. Naruto was mad, but he agreed. After all, the Nara missed out on training yesterday. They spent the whole day working on it. Shikamaru's handling was jerky, but manageable, for now. At least he didn't have to focus hard on controlling it anymore. He also found out how to channel elemental chakra through it. Naruto, this is a well-made chain, where did you get it? The lazy genius asked. Naruto smiled and said, My mom knows how to make good weapons and she's been teaching me. That chain actually took me months of work to make. Shikamaru looked at him in shock and said, "You made this. Why didn't you keep it for yourself?" Naruto gave his fox grin once more and said, 1. You need to learn how to fight. 2. It suits you better. And 3. I came up with designs for a different weapon for me. Shikamaru looked at his presents from the Uzumaki family and said, "You're a troublesome blonde, but a good friend, even if you did wake me up at 8. Naruto said, "Oh come on, you should have been awake by then." Shikamaru smirked and he went to his house to spend the rest of his birthday with his family. Naruto was tired and he was ready for some sleep. He thought, well, at least I won't have to deal with any birthdays for a while. The next day, Naruto was walking down the street going to get some ramen. He felt a weird vibe in the air. It wasn't a killing intent, but it made him feel uneasy. Suddenly Ino tackled him to the floor in a hug. She happily asked, "Isn't there something you want to say, Naruto-kun?" Naruto looked at her and said, hello Ino-chan." Ino looked like she was about to cry and then she said, "It's my birthday and all you say is hello. En nani?" Naruto asked and then he thought, damn it, I don't have a present for her. She not on my team, but we do hang out a lot. She was on the brink of tears as she said, "You forgot my birthday." Naruto didn't want her to cry, so he said, "And no, I just, wanted to take you out for lunch. Just tell me what you want to eat." Ino then got a perverted grin on her face, but quickly got out of it and said, "I could go for a little bit of barbecue today." Naruto smiled and thought, it's no ramen, but barbecue is still good. Glad it's just me and Ino, not with Choji. Wait, is this a date? Naruto took her to the restaurant and got their food. Naruto obviously got huge amounts and Ino got small amounts, and vegetables. Ino looked at Naruto and asked, "How are you able to eat so much?" Naruto said, "I have an unusually high metabolism." When they were done, Naruto paid and walked Ino back to her house. Naruto said, "Well, see you around." She smiled and kissed him. He was in a dreamily content state until he heard her say, "Yeah, see you around, Naruto-kun." When Naruto got home he was still in daze and his mother asked, "What's wrong with Naruto-kun?" Zabuza and Minato looked at him, talked it over for a few minutes and then they said, "It is undeniable that Naruto got his first kiss." Kushina just slapped her head and said, "Bakas." Haku heard the statement and knew she had to step up her game a notch or two. She mumbled, "Whoever did this is a little man-stealer." All the way on the other side of town a young blonde kunoichi in purple sneezed. Then she said, "I wonder who's talking about me." 2 days before the Chunin exam. Naruto and his team have completed many D-rank missions and wondered if they missed being on the receiving end of a shower of senbons. Shikamaru mumbled, "That was troublesome." Hinata and Choji didn't know how it felt, so said nothing. Naruto said, "Really? I like the feeling of adrenaline pumping through my blood, knowing that every needle could be fatal. The cold air from the ice and water enhanced the feeling." Choji was intrigued and asked, "Really?" Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, it's so difficult to explain how it feels." Kakashi looked up from his book and said, Yes, I remember my first life or death situation. It is a good feeling. Maybe the best feeling in the world. Well, second to other things that you're not old enough to hear about. Although, don't let yourself enjoy too much or else you'll become like Anko-san." Naruto shuddered at that thought. He had met Anko before and the way she enjoyed killing and torturing so much frightened him. Hinata looked at the frightened blonde and asked, What's wrong with Anko-san?" Naruto looked at her and said, "Trust me, you don't want to know. Anyways, Kakashi-sensei, why'd you ask us to meet you here? Wait, you're on time. That can only mean something important. Would it be, by any chance, that?" Kakashi smirked under his mask and said, "Well, it's hard keeping village information from the son of the Hokage, but yes, I've decided to enter you all in the Chunin exams. Here is your slip, bring it 2 days from now." That day, Konohamaru was following Naruto and his team around after he told them, for the 5th time, that boxes aren't square. They ran into Sakura, who was pissed at seeing Naruto. "Hey Naruto Baka, see you're still alive. That's unfortunate for those guys," she said as she pointed to his teammates. Konohamaru said, "What is this girl talking about? Oh, I see. You must have been dating her and you broke up. I can see why. I mean, just look at her forehead. Sakura was pissed at this. First he insinuated that she was dating Naruto, then he made fun of her forehead. In short, she was going to kill him. He ran from her and ran into what looks like a kabuki ninja. The kabuki nin picked him up and said, "Watch where you're going, brat." Naruto looked at the man and said, "Suna nins. I take it you're here for the Chunin exams. Well, I'm going to ask you to put the grandson of one of the land's greatest heroes and the friend of the current Hokage's son down." The girl said, "Maybe that is a good idea, Konkuro." The Suna nin just laughed and said, "Who's gonna make me a no-named brat like you?" Naruto smiled and replaced himself with Konohamaru. Then a stone hit the ninja's hand and Naruto said, "I could have handled it, Sasuke TB." Sasuke smirked and said, "I know you could have, Dobi, but you're the son of my uncle's sensei, so I decided to help you out." Naruto said, "Trust me, they would have quit soon. Look next to you." Sasuke did just that. Next to him was a ninja on the shorter side, with rings around his eyes, the kanji for love on his forehead, and a giant gourd on his back. This guy thought, he was able to detect me, he's good and he feels familiar. In a swirl of sand he appeared next to his team and said, "Konkuro-san, you're a disgrace to our village." "My apologies, Naruto Uzumaki," finished the blonde boy. "Very well, Uzumaki-san. My name is Sabaku no Gara. This is my sister Tamari-san and my disgrace of a brother Konkuro-san." As he left, Naruto thought, he has a familiar feeling to him. "He should," said the booming voice inside his head. The next day, Naruto was still walking around with Konohamaru and his friends. He liked the boy no matter how annoying he got, it was like he had a little brother. Konohamaru asked, "Hey boss, when you gonna ask you pops to let me sign that monkey contract he's been holding on to?" Naruto smiled and said, "Not until after you become a genin. I doubt I'll even mention it until you've gone on a C-ranked mission." Konohamaru was frustrated and said, "Oh come on boss, how am I gonna get strong unless I get that contract?" Naruto replied, "I have never heard of an academy student learning how to summon. Hey, don't be mad, here I'll treat you guys to some ramen." Konohamaru's pouting got less serious and he nodded. As they were walking, a ninja, whom was apparently from AIM, grabbed and ran with Moegi. Naruto cursed and ran after him. Naruto caught up with the kidnapper in the forest and rushed towards him. The ninja held Moegi and said, "Take another step and Moegi gets it. I want you to give up on the Chunin exams." Naruto was smiling. Under his mask, where he stood, there was then a puff of smoke revealing Moegi standing there confused and Naruto in her captor's arms with a kunai out. He said, "You know you blew your cover when you said Moegi." The ninja realized what Naruto said, that he knew who he was. Naruto smirked under his mask and said, "Tell me how the others did over the ramen you're treating me to, Iruka-sensei." Konohamaru and friends were just staring wide-eyed. Iruka cursed and disappeared. In Jonin meeting, Minato was waiting for Iruka to come back from giving a little test to the Rookie 12, as people called them. Iruka came back and he had scratches, bite marks, and even some scorch marks. The Yondaime was trying not to laugh as he said, "So Iruka-san, how did it go?" "They all passed, some more violently than others," Iruka said angry. Minato couldn't help but laugh. Kakashi said, "Good, I already handed them the forms 2 days ago." Iruka looked at him and said, "Nani? That was the team that was said to be the least likely to go on." Kakashi said, "Calm down. I took the exam when I was half Naruto-kun's age. Plus, if someone on my team is good enough to take on a Jonin level missing nin and win, they should be in the exams." Nobody could counter that logic, but one said, "Kakashi, my hip rival, who on your team was youthful enough to take down Zabuza-san?" We never got the full report. Kakashi got a headache from that and said, "Hokage-sama, can I answer this?" Minato nodded and Kakashi said, "Well, our first encounter with Zabuza-san was unexpected and he managed to capture me in a water jutsu, but Naruto saved me and won the fight. He was going to give the killing blow, but Haku-chan intervened. I was the one to defeat him in our battle on the bridge, however." The next day, Naruto and team were heading to the Chunin exams starting location. They went up a set of stairs and saw that there was a crowd. Rock Lee was talking to some guy and seemed to be weak. Naruto whispered to Hinata, hey, is there a genjutsu covering this area? Hinata activated her Byakugan and nodded. What is going on? Lee-kun is stronger than that, and with Neji-kun on their team they should be able to see through this. Unless they are trying to get people away from the exam, thought a now smiling Naruto. His team nodded and started to walk up to the next floor when Naruto heard one of the stupidest things that day. It was Sasuke. He nearly choked him when he heard him say, now then, why don't you drop this charade? We have to get to the third floor. My team has already noticed it. Isn't that right, Sakura-san? I mean, you are the best at recognizing genjutsu. Everybody was confused and Neji and Tenten looked pissed, all their hard work ruined. That's right, this is the second floor. The genjutsu was dropped and it revealed room 201. One of the people who were doing this tried rushing Sasuke and Sasuke was preparing a kick. Right before they were going to clash, Rock Lee intervened. He caught both their attacks and said, it is most unyouthful to fight like this before the exams. Neji gave him a look of, you said not to show our strength before the exams, and Sasuke looked at him with an expression that said, he must have had a massive amount of chakra in his arms to catch that. They started walking and they saw Team 10 was right behind them. Lee caught up to them and challenged Sasuke. Naruto made his team stay behind and said, trust me, you aren't going to want to miss this. His team stayed anticipating something. Lee was blowing through Sasuke's defenses, so Sasuke activated his Sharingan to counter it. Naruto cried out, it's no use, he's using taijutsu. Sasuke brushed this off and continued to get beaten. Finally Lee appeared behind him and kicked him up. He disappeared behind Sasuke and undid his bandages. Naruto thought, crap, I didn't think that Lee-kun would go overboard. Naruto tackled the mini guy out of the air and said, Lee-kun, you know you aren't supposed to use that jutsu. Then Guy appeared and Naruto knew where this was leading. He pushed his team through the doors saying, trust me, you're better off missing this. He pushed them into room 301 and he saw Team 8 and waved. Kiba saw them and asked, hey Baka and team, what took you so long? Oh, we decided to catch a fight, Naruto replied. Kiba looked at him and then saw Team 10 come in completely traumatized. What happened to you guys? Asked Nekoyoshi. Shino said, by the looks of it, something we don't want to know about. Team 10 and Naruto both nodded. A silver-haired Leaf Nin saw the rookies and said, you might want to calm down, don't you feel the tension? I am Kabuto, your senpai. You have no idea what to expect, but fear not, my underclassmen, I will provide you with information. I have taken this exam 7 times, but it was not in vain. I have a little information on every ninja in here. Is there any in particular that you want info on? Sasuke looked up and said, I need some on Sabaku no Gaara, Rock Lee, and Naruto Uzumaki. Kiba nearly laughed as he asked, why do you want information on our dead last classmate? Naruto said, if you don't mind, do mine last and throw in Sasuke Uchiha. Kabuto smirked and said, that's no fun, you know all their names. He shuffled the deck and pulled out 4 cards. Let's start with Sasuke. He's one of the last Uchiha, has well-balanced stats, but focuses mainly on ninjutsu. He's been on 12D ranked missions and 2C ranked. Not bad for a rookie. He was the top of his class, and his teammates are Chinatsuhime, Sakura, and Takehiko, with Asuma as their sensei, said Kabuto. Rock Lee has almost no ninjutsu or genjutsu capabilities, but recently his taijutsu has spiked. He has completed 20D ranked missions and 17C ranked. His teammates are Neji and Tenten, with Miyato Guy as his sensei, Kabuto continued. Sabaku no Gaara is mysterious. I have nothing on his stats, but I know that he has 8C ranked mission and AB ranked. That's impressive, plus he returned from all of them without a scratch. His teammates are his sibling and his sensei is someone named Baki, Kabuto said. Naruto is requested you are last. Naruto was the dead last. I was surprised you mentioned him, but looking at his stats it's surprising because they are relatively high, especially his ninjutsu and taijutsu. He has been on 12D ranked and, what, that can't be right, started Kabuto. Kabuto senpai, why don't you finish what you were saying, said a smug Uzumaki. Kabuto continued, an A-ranked jutsu. He's the Hokage's son and rumored to have signed the contract of the Toads. His teammates are Choji, Hinata, and Shikamaru, with Kakashi as their Jonin sensei. Everybody, but Team 7 and Ino was speechless. Sasuke managed to cover it up and said, that must have been a mistake. There is no way that this dobe could have went on an A-ranked mission and survived. Most of the others agreed, with it the exceptions of Ino, Shino, and Nekoyoshi. The two latter knew that Naruto was suspicious of his sudden drop in grades. Well, the information on Gaara is a little better than some ninjas, especially ninjas from Oto, said Kabuto. Sakura looked at him and asked, why do you have less information on Sound Nin? Kabuto explained, ah, my cute little underclassman, the Sound Village is still new and it is too small for me to have much data on it. As if on Q3 Sound Nin rushed at him one through a punch. The punch missed, as Kabuto got out of the way, but the silver-haired genin still was blown back. The bandaged leader said, never belittle Oto. A violent-looking man with many scars on him came in and yelled, sit down and be quiet you little brats. That includes you in the back. This brings me to my first rule, no fighting. Everyone sat down after his outburst. The violent man said, okay, my name is Ibiki Morino and I'll be your first instructor. The first part of the exams is on intellect. You'll be given 10 questions and 10 points for every question you get wrong. It'll be 1 point of your total score. Every time you're caught cheating will be -2 points. I won't give the final question until 45 minutes in. If one person on your team fails, the whole team fails. With the last part, everyone was in an uproar, except a select few teams. Shikamaru looked at his team and said, I won't be able to hold it all day, so we'll need to do the questions fast. Everybody took their seats and Naruto was sitting next to Hinata. Ibiki looked up and said, the test starts now. Naruto looked over the questions and thought, this is high-level Chunin questions. Only a handful of people in here will be able to get this. The answer is cheating. Shikamaru will help out with that. Shikamaru took note of where all his teammates were and formed the rat hand sign. His shadow stretched very discreetly to each of them. When they first felt it, their natural reaction was to fight it, but they learned to accept it so they weren't obvious. Shikamaru started to answer the questions as did the rest of his team, but the young genius noticed that Hinata and Naruto were next to each other and tried to delay Naruto so that he wrote after everybody else did. They finished the questions in a matter of 15 minutes and it wasn't a huge strain on Shikamaru's chakra reserves, as they all didn't fight it. Naruto looked at his test and decided to see what everyone else was doing to get by. He saw that Kiba was using his dog Akamaru, Nekoyoshi was using his cat Aoi, Shino his bugs, and Ino took over Sakura's mind. Sakura was just doing the test, Sasuke was using the Sharingan to copy body movements, Takehiko scattered bits of leaves around, and Chinatsuhime was using a small amount of light to reflect answers on her headband. Tenten seemed to be using mirror and helping Lee, while Neji used his Byakugan. Gaara was using his sand like Takehiko was using the leaves and he couldn't tell what Tamari was doing. That Konkuro guy stood up and said, I need to take a leak. Ibiki looked at him and said, you'll need to take an observer with you. Konkuro nodded and one went with him. A couple hours later Ibiki said, time to go over the rules of the 10th question. Konkuro walked back in and was ready for the question. Ah, perfect timing. I'm glad to see your doll playing didn't get in the way of your test. Konkuro thought, crap, he saw through Karasu. He then took his seat. As I was saying, the rules are you can decide if you're going to take the question. If you don't, then you'll automatically fail, but if you do and get it wrong, then you may never take this test again and will forever be genin. Once again there was an outburst. Naruto thought, this is interesting. I want to see how this is going to play out. Ibiki saw that Naruto was looking content and he faced him head on. You, Uzumaki-kun, Ibiki started. Naruto merely looked up at him. Ibiki continued, if you fail this test you'll be a genin forever. Naruto looked at him and said, then I'll be the strongest genin ever. There is no rule that states that I can't be Hokage even if I'm a genin, but I don't have to worry about that because I will get this question right and not a thing or a person in this world is going to stop me. Ibiki saw everybody who was still there got an iron will suddenly. He thought, the kid's a natural leader. I really shouldn't have attacked his confidence. 26 teams is a lot. This group is good. Congratulations, you all passed. The point of the test is that you must go at any problem head on no matter what the consequences. There is no not doing a mission because of the dangers. You do something and you do it right or face the problems with doing it wrong, Ibiki was saying before he was cut off by some cloth that was flying through the window. The cloth unfolded and it had the words, "The second examiner Anko Midarashi." Ibiki was annoyed and said, "Anko, you're early, again. Every time it is in Konoha you're early." Anko smiled and said, "I was bored." "Hey, you left a lot behind, you must be getting soft." "Don't worry, I'll have them cut in half by the end of my exam."